All right, another early video. It's 12:52. So I want to talk about something, and I don't want to backpedal, but a little bit. What I mean by that is this: if you're too nice, if you're too likable, not likable, I take that back. If you're too friendly with a prospect at the beginning, they may see you as a buddy. They may see you as a buddy, and then at the end of the call, they're going to be like, "Yeah, yeah, okay, sure, I'll get back to you. Oh, I'll think about it or whatever." So they're not going to be in that position where they feel like they are going to pursue something, and through the conversation with you they might attain it. They're basically establishing the relationship in their mind in a different context than the frame that you're trying to set, which is a very interesting dynamic. This actually happened to me yesterday, which is why I want to reinforce the lesson and impart it to you immediately, fresh in my mind as it comes up. So the gentleman, he was in his car, financially qualified him, everything was good, so the funds were definitely there. Mistake that I noticed that I made was that this gentleman, he didn't want to he wanted to be more analytical. He wanted to be a little bit more, he wanted the meeting to be structured in a way that would allow him to receive the information and to meet him at his particular level so that then he can make a decision. I was a bit too friendly at the beginning, which means a little bit too much small talk, a little bit too much of the laughing, a little bit too much of the smiling, a little bit too much of the this and the that, right? That didn't really have anything to do with the actual point of the meeting, which means that it was not the rapport that he needed, that the rapport that was required in that situation with him was not properly established. And what I mean by that is that every prospect needs rapport, needs rapport, but the rapport that they need may come in a different form. So some they actually like that joking and the laughing. Some they don't. Some are all about the swearing. This, in fact, this just happened to me, where you don't know who a person is, and then he started cussing in a casual way that maybe some corporate lawyers might swear, whatever the case is. And so I peppered in some of my own, and I could see that he was receptive to that. He was smiling or he chuckled, and that was good enough, right? But you got to stay in that zone. You got to stay in that sweet spot. You can't lose your focus because you're trying to stay present to the moment, but you also need to think about what are the next 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead, and where is he in that process, and how to actually, get him to where you need to get him, simultaneously being aware of what you're doing and what he's doing, and making sure that the dynamic nature of the conversation is maintained and you're staying present, yet are properly oriented towards where it needs to go. So you have to be very careful with how you conduct these calls, because even if you're in a positive mood, right? So this goes back to the whole authenticity question. So even if you're in a positive mood, you might think that that specific mood is what you need to bring to the call. Now, the mood that you're in may not necessarily resonate with that prospect. So it's not that you want to stop being yourself, but you have to be able to temper who you are with what's happening. For example, if you're in a really good mood, but you step in a funeral home, or you show up to a friend's funeral, but you were in a good mood, as an example. This is maybe not the best example, but I think it illustrates my point. Once you step into that environment, you naturally lower all of your tones and you conform to what the situation requires of you. You're not being yourself, but you're a different part of you comes out because the context demands that part of you comes out, if that makes sense. So the quick lesson here, and this is going to be a fairly short video, I want to try to keep it under 10 minutes. The short lesson here is be very perceptive as to where are you in the conversation and what does this person need, because there are some prospects that need to feel extremely comfortable with you, and they're just never going to close on the first call. There are some that are never going to close, There are some that are going to close, and there are some that are going to fall somewhere in between, right? They're going to be on the fence. But some need time to actually build that relationship, which is why if you notice on, if you're a traveling salesperson on business trips, you'll go to a specific location for 1 or 2 or 3 days, right? Which means that if you're trying to sign a very big deal, and you're speaking to a large corporation and you're meeting with their CEO or their president, you're going to sit there for the first day, then you might have lunch later that night, and then you're going to come back the second day, and maybe you're going to stay a third day. So you're going to have a series of conversations, right? Series of questions, series of get to know you. Who's your company? What can you do? Let's build a relationship. So it's not, this new world of closing people one-on-one on Zoom is not something that you should immediately think that will work on everybody. Because remember, especially with the older prospects, if you have older clients, that's just not going to fly with them. They need to feel like they know you, especially if they came off a set call or an ad or some kind of process. Hey, you're asking them to pay you X amount of dollars. So if they're going to pay you X amount of dollars, you better be sure, you better believe that they're going to need to feel comfortable with you and your company. So take your time. Don't rush it. There's an expression, the fortunes are in the follow-up. The reason they have that expression exists is because that is true. In fact, there's another statistic, which I think the amount of touch points necessary for a person to buy is actually 12. Hang on here, got some technical difficulties. It's actually 12 touch points, 12 different points of contact, or 6 different points, or whatever the case is. Multiple different points of contact before they even decide to buy. So don't burn the bridge. Don't just burn it. Don't go super sales bro and try to close them on the call. Then they get put off. Their energy is all weird. They're like, yeah, I'll get back to you. Click, fuck off, right? So you don't want that to happen. So just be patient. I understand you have to hit your numbers, but be patient and take your time and go through the process. And if you notice they're not going to close, then just make sure that you give them a reason to connect with you again. You give them a reason to follow up. So you have to always give them a reason to come back. Otherwise, they're just going to vanish. And especially if they're interested, you want to make sure that relationship is maintained and they still see you as a serious person who can actually fulfill their needs for them. So keep those things in mind. I'm going to cut it there. I'm going to cut it there. And I hope that was helpful. So I'll see you in the next video.